Hello and welcome, my dear viewers, to Infamous Animation, where garbage comes to life. With the brand new Star Wars movie currently still in theaters, I thought it was time to take a look at some of the more unappreciated and unknown aspects of the Star Wars animated universe.
In my review of the Star Wars ripoff, Star Chaser: The Legend of Orin, I mentioned at the end that I thought the movie was at least better than the Droids and Ewoks cartoons. I must admit I had only seen a handful of clips out of context from both cartoons at the time, since I wasn't able to find either series online, and I judged them based on only a few seconds of footage, really. To redeem myself, I finally found the entirety of both series, and now will I be able to see just how bad they might be. In 1985, Lucasfilm contracted Canadian studio Nelvana to produce a twin set of animated series based on the Star Wars universe, and these became what we know now as the Droids and Ewoks cartoons. In this part, we'll take a look at the shorter of the two series, the Droids cartoon. But before we do, let's take a quick look at the previous Star Wars animated piece, the segment called The Faithful Wookiee from the Star Wars Holiday Special, also animated by Nelvana, because Droids is very similar to it in visual design. Many cite this animated segment as the only worthwhile thing to come out of that ridiculous TV movie, mostly for being the first canonical appearance of Boba Fett. In this segment, the Rebel Alliance gets a call from Chewbacca saying that he and Han Solo found a talisman that was supposed to grant invisibility, but something is wrong with Han and they lose contact. Luke, C-3PO and R2-D2 go to the planet Han and Chewie crashed on, and are saved from a native creature by Boba Fett, who offers his help. The talisman appears to emit a sleeping sickness that only humans are susceptible to, and Boba Fett goes to purchase a serum cure from a nearby town. Here, R2 intercepts a message that shows Boba Fett had been hired by Darth Vader to take them in alive, and before he can take off with them, he is outed and retreats, leaving the heroes in peace. I don't know why he didn't just tranquilize Chewbacca and destroy the droids and just take the bodies to Vader along with the serum, but according to the fans, Boba Fett is a Chuck Norris-level god of Mary Sue proportions and is not to be criticized ever, so what do I know? This cartoon isn't too bad. It's short and to the point, it has some good effects and creature animation, and the cast of the movies reprise their roles. But its most justly criticized feature are the facial designs of the main cast. Luke's face looks like he had one too many bad plastic surgeries, Leia looks like a bobblehead toy, and Han Solo. Oh god, did they even make a model sheet for him? Regardless, despite the reception of the holiday special, Nelvana got to expand the universe a bit more 7 years later. Now, let's take a look at Droids. Taking place sometime between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, this series focuses on C-3PO and R2-D2 as they serve different masters and go on various adventures. 13 episodes and a double-length special episode were produced. You might think that was such a short series, the stories would be self-contained per episode, but no, they're more like Doctor Who serials, with 3 story arcs over the course of the series. The first 4 episodes are one story, the next 5 are another story, and the special serves as the beginning of the remaining story. The first story arc has the droids in the service of mechanics who want to be in speeder races. They accidentally run afoul with a powerful gang leader and his reckless son trying to make a name for himself, and they team up with a rebel spy in order to destroy a superweapon that they're building. The second arc has the droids helping a prince to reclaim his throne from his treacherous vizier, Arabian Nights style, while also fighting off a powerful and vindictive pirate group that wants to take advantage of the kingdom's turmoil for their own gain. The special has them and their new master, an adventurous merchant, getting captured by a monstrous machine called the Great Heap, who came to that planet to starve it of water and get it prepared for mining by the Empire. And the final arc has them on the hunt for valuable crystals on a planet run by a petty dictator who's trying to get in good with the Empire, if he is able to find the crystals first.
The first story arc is by far the best. I honestly don't have anything really negative to say about it. The only real problem I have with the story is that it pretty much feels over by the end of the 3rd episode, and the 4th episode feels too much like an understated denouement that only serves to shoehorn Boba Fett in for fan service reasons.
The story arc does have a good conclusion, so I'm not really unhappy with it. The dialogue works without being stupid, the plot structure makes sense, the protagonists are all competent in their own ways, and the relationship between the gang leader and his son is actually pretty good tragedy, in that the son wants the approval of his father, but he never gets it because of his hastiness and temper, and it's what causes the majority of their failures, including getting their main base destroyed and pissing off Boba Fett to the point where he decides to sell them to Jabba the Hutt, instead of continuing to help them. Yeah, Boba is here because the gang leader wants revenge on the heroes for ruining them, and Boba owes him a favor. But his son's interference almost kills Boba Fett, so he says, "Screw the favor, I hope you like metal bikinis." The second arc is sadly the worst. A number of minor villains are introduced early on, and they all end up having little relevance to the story as a whole, including another fan-favorite bounty hunter, IG-88, who is set up to have a more important role in the story, but he is quickly forgotten. The issue of the treacherous Vizier is resolved rather quickly, and then it's a repetitive back-and-forth cat-and-mouse story with the pirates. The new human characters feel too similar to the ones from the first story in both personality and behavior, and the villains are all notably more stupid. Yes, the gang leader's son was stupid, but it came from recklessness and hubris, and his associates hated him for it. The pirate leader, on the other hand, goes from being a crafty villain who isn't fooled by decoy ships to someone easily tricked into a test of wits, allowing one of the heroes to escape. The action choreography also took a major hit. While the animation in the series is nothing particularly spectacular or anything, it does have a much higher production value than several other of its 80s cartoon peers. It is also not made for syndication, but weekly, so the actual character animation has a lot more motion and fluidity to it. That said, they really screwed up the execution of the action scenes. Awkward as hell. This story arc also relies a lot more on cartoonish slapstick. Several thugs get into these situations, and C-3PO also starts slipping about and screaming more in this story arc. The final episode of the arc, like the previous story, has a mostly unrelated but still connected plot about stopping some interplanetary poachers. Overall, a disappointing follow-up to a really good start. The TV special is a solid story, with the only problem I have being that we get no information about the titular villain, the Great Heap. It's a giant mining robot that hates moisture, and it goes to planets with a machine to suck up all the water on it so that the ground can be harvested. We get no background on where it came from, who built it and why, and what its motivation is to mine planets for the Empire. It may be the only real problem the special has, but it is a big problem if you ask me. The only other problem I have is R2-D2's behavior. The Great Heap powers itself by draining all the energy from R2 units, leaving empty husks behind. And he keeps a bunch of captured R2 droids in a room called his harem. Instead of a bunch of hot robot girls, it's a lounge where the R2 units stay in comfort until one of them needs to be picked off to be drained. And they're picked off by being sucked down the hot tub, and all the other R2 units are strangely none the wiser. R2-D2 gets put in there, and he seems perfectly content being there until it's revealed to them what the Great Heap plans to do to them. Until this point, R2-D2 has always been a more proactive character. Here he just decides to give up early and relax, even though he knows C-3PO and their new master have been captured, and their kidnapper is ravaging the planet. Those issues aside, the special is a pretty good self-contained story. The final arc isn't bad, but it suffers from a lack of ambition. The droid's new master is probably the most interesting of their masters, but the main goal of the story is pretty generic. They're on a treasure hunt for some powerful crystals that may or may not even exist on the planet where they supposedly originate. The only thing that brings some authenticity to this story are the villains. A dictator named Governor Kung has... Wait a minute, Kung? What's his first name, Doonkie? Well, Governor Kung has taken control over all the planet, except the most fertile and rich land the world has to offer. He's been after the rumored crystals as well, and he thinks they're located on that land, and he's offered to share the wealth with the Empire in exchange for command of his own Star Destroyer. The interactions with the Imperial Emissary and the Dictator, along with the Dictator's second-in-command, are what give life to this otherwise routine scenario. Seeing their relationship fall apart as plans start to fail one by one is pretty entertaining, and well written. That said, the villains suffer from one big problem. their voices.
I want that team eliminated, once and for all.
I have already set a plan in motion against the Ambu team. Beelzebub is mine.
For the dictator, they went with one of those stupid, cartoonish thug voices that nobody in real life sounds like, and his second-in-command has an annoying Waspinator kind of voice. The voice works for an annoying character like Waspinator, but not for the mostly serious and conniving character that the second-in-command is. The second arc had some characters with silly voices too, but none of them were important enough to have much screen time, so it really is a problem with the last arc. At least they cut down on the dumb slapstick the second arc had.